Good morning. Welcome to Digital Permaculture. Well, Daniel and I wanted to give you a little break from looking at videos, and we wanted to talk about invisible structures with you, and I thought I'd just videotape it for fun, give this a try. Maybe it's a little bit more interesting to watch me, maybe not. But let's talk about invisible structures. So that's something that is a lot of time is devoted to invisible structures in the permaculture manual that Bill Mollison wrote. And he will talk about that in the book as if it's really one of the most critical things to all of design work. So far in this class, we've talked about lots of different visible structures, how to manage water, swales, terraces, different kinds of plants, soil amendments. We've talked about how to take care of soil, structures to house people, house animals, buildings, pens, garden beds, all these different ways, and integrating them, these physical structures, to make a more sustainable, efficient system. And you're designing things like that too. That's what you're going to focus a lot in your design projects on that too. You're thinking about where to put certain plants, where to put different water catchment systems, how to build soil, all those things, but they're really all visible. So what we talk about when we talk about invisible structures, we're talking about all those things that you can't see, but are really important. One way it was told to me is invisible structures that you don't think about until they're broken, but they're there. So think about things like electricity or electrical infrastructure. Electricity is invisible, but it's super important, and when you don't have it, a lot of systems shut down. I can't help but think right now, invisible structure are things like pathogens, viruses, bacteria, things we don't see at all, but when they manifest in our environment, we are very aware of it. So in design, we have to think about that too. Like designing things for educational systems, labor systems, economic systems, all those things are invisible. Energy distribution systems, things that we don't see but are really important to think about. Social systems, super important. They're not really visible. I mean, you see people interacting, but the actual exchange is invisible. It's social, it's community, it's not a physical structure. So that would be considered that too. Usually I have the class come up with their own ideas, lots of great brainstorming on what are invisible structures that are super important to us, that we don't think about until kind of we're forced to. Students come up with all kinds of ideas. I have some written down here from times before other classes, that other invisible structures, kind of a micro scale or macro scale, things like time is an invisible structure, ethics, laws, principles, relationships, money distribution system. Digital money isn't really real anymore. It's not tangible, but it's there. It has value. Education, knowledge is invisible. Music is just sound. It's not a visible thing, but that's an important thing for a lot of people. Spirituality, a lot of pollution is invisible. A lot of things at a microscopic or nanoscopic scale would be considered invisible structure to most of us. Things like pollution or bacteria, good and beneficial and negative. So lots of different things that come with invisible structures. So that's what we want to focus on this week. And the focus of this little talk is just to give you examples of these invisible structures and bring them to light, how they're really important, and if they're overlooked sometimes because they're considered invisible instead of visible. Our culture tends to put value on and credit things that are kind of in our face, tangible, concrete, visible, and puts less emphasis on those things that are not. For example, I think kind of the big industry around beauty and youth is all about kind of like what things look like instead of what they are inside. That's why we have to tell our children over and over again, you know, as they grow up, what matters is how you feel about yourself, and what matters is what's inside of you, because our culture, the Western culture, tends to overemphasize visual and not the non-visual, like the invisible. So that's what I want to kind of emphasize and bring out to light, bring out and discuss. All right, that's the first little section of this trial.